Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Casey Vanette. I'm the officer in charge of the AbbyPD Patrol Branch. I'm here with the Chief Constable, Mike Sear, and today we're going to provide you with the first quarterly community report for 2022. In addition to talking about some important stats on some of our major crime topics, we're going to talk about some of the questions that we had from you, our community, on things that are of interest to you. So before we get to that, Chief, we've been able to do a couple things we haven't been able to do in the last couple of years. Obviously, COVID has dominated all of our lives, but we recently were able to reconnect with the community through Coffee with the Cop. Maybe you can talk about that.
Yeah, Casey. So in the first time in a couple of years, now that COVID's kind of subsided somewhat, we were able to do Coffee with a Cop. And that's us connecting with our community, us having our members from around the entire department come to a coffee shop and sit down with you, our community. And really it's an opportunity to hear from you what is important to you, answer your questions and just meet everyone. This event was fantastic, I can tell you, and we're going to continue to do many more coming up in the coming year and years to come. I think one of the questions I get asked a lot is how can I volunteer and how can I support? And I can tell you that we have over 130 volunteers, and through COVID they were actually not as busy as normally because of COVID. We had to reduce it, but we are very excited now to bring all our volunteers back who can help us with traffic safety and speed watch, can help us with victim services and so many other programs. So if you are interested in volunteering, I really encourage you to go to our AbbyPD website, abbypd.ca, and there under careers you'll see an area for volunteers, and we would love to have more and more volunteers. Another question I just want to bring up, people are asking us, so we're going to have a change in our executive team here. Deputy Paulette Friel, after 38 years of policing, both with the RCMP and here in Abbotsford, is retiring, and we wish her all the best. And taking her role in our administration division is going to be Inspector Jason Burrows, who brings a wealth of experience from around our department, and we're very excited to have him on board.
In the case of Deputy Friel, 38 years, I mean, I got a little bit of ways to go before I get that, but super impressive. And
very impressive.
And, we just want to congratulate her for sure. And we're looking forward to having Deputy Burrows on, obviously with his experience in the patrol branch, some of his tactical background and his community policing background. I know we're going to be well served by his work. So moving on some of our stats, Chief, we want to provide the community, give them an idea where we're at. As you know, we look at our crime types very carefully. We monitor them not only on a daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly basis, but these are something that we're constantly poring over in order to give us an idea, provide a snapshot of where we're at with our major crime types. So one of our major crime types, of course, is property crime. Maybe you can spend a couple minutes on property crime. How are we looking there, and what are some of the latest trends?
Yeah, maybe just to lead up, Casey. So, as you were explaining, the stats are very important in intelligence-led policing, and we have crime analysts that review all our reports and can identify the hotspots within our community, identify persons who we know are committing a disproportionate amount of the crime. And really, your branch in patrol and other branches in crime reduction unit and drugs and et cetera can focus their efforts on where we can have the most impact. So going to property crime, I'm very happy to say that our break-and-enters year to date from last year are down 19%. Break-and-enters are what we know have the most significant impact on property crime to our community. When someone breaks into your house or your business, and just how impactful that is. So down 19% is something we're very proud of. What we are seeing though is an increase in crimes like theft of auto and theft from auto. It's something we're working very hard on. We know a lot of these what we often will call survival crimes that are really smaller type of crime, but do so much harm to our community. And we're trying to focus on that, identifying where the hotspots are. You can see those hotspots and maps on our social media platforms so that you're aware. But also we need help from our community. The 9 o'clock or 9 p.m. routine for ensuring that your valuables are locked up, your vehicles are locked up is so important. And if you see something, to report it so that we can come by and assess and do that investigation. So I am happy to see that overall our property crime is going down, but it's still something that we work very hard on.
So on the issue of property crime, of course, we know that there are a small number of folks doing the majority of the crime, sometimes referred to as the prolific offender. And we know that can be extremely frustrating, not only for the public, but for us I think it's important to note to our community that we are working hard with our local Crown Council. So for those folks that we continue to arrest time and time again, that we're doing our very best to put a package together to ensure that those folks that deserve, quite frankly, maybe kept off the streets, are kept off the streets, so we can offer the protection that our community deserves. And so I think that's a important point worth mentioning, Chief. So
yeah, no, and just to add that we are working closely with Crown Council, and we have identified who our prolific and super prolific offenders are. There's no secret. We know who they are, and like you said, we work very closely with Crown Council, and we work very closely as a department to ensure we can get them off the streets and disrupt the impact that they have on our community.
Absolutely. So turning to violent crime, what's the update on violent crime for the first quarter of 2022?
Yeah, again, overall, we are seeing that it's holding steady compared to last year, based by numbers. We have had 3 homicides year to date. Last year to date, we had 1. The homicides, I can tell you, are not gang related. There's been no connection to gangs thus far. We're monitoring very closely. Some of our surrounding communities have seen certainly an uptick on shootings and homicides that have a connection to the gang conflict. We are concerned about the violence that we've seen on our street in some of our marginalized community. A couple of those homicides were connected to that. So something that we monitor very closely, and we're working very hard with our integrated homicide investigative team to solve those crimes. We have seen an increase in intimate partner violence being reported to us, and that's something that actually, in one way, I'm very happy to see, because we know that a lot of this is going on unreported, and it's happening behind closed doors. And for us, it's just so important that we're made aware that people who are the victims of intimate partner violence call the police, so we can intervene and we can change those behaviors, and we can help support individuals and especially the victims of this. So we've seen that increase slightly, and that's something that that overall that I'm very happy that we are getting more and more people reporting, and we're working with that. Finally, I guess the only other thing I would add is robberies have remained static, and sexual assaults have remained the same as they did last year statistically. But we look at those very, very closely because they're very serious crimes, and I know our major crime unit is working very, very hard to solve each and every one that comes onto their desks.
Yeah. So switching gears a little bit, Chief, obviously policing has evolved in many different ways over the number of years, and we're constantly looking for good potential police officers, and so recruiting is a big part of the work that we do through our Human Resources Department. Talk about recruiting in policing generally and how it's going here at the AbbyPD.
Well, I think like any police agency in the Lower Mainland, we are all being challenged by staffing. Yeah. There is a lot of movement, as we know, with the Surrey Police Service, as we know with retirements, and et cetera, that we are all looking for resources. So we are actively recruiting new members to be police officers, and we have so many great young people coming through our doors, and we work very hard to take the best of the best that will represent our department and protect and serve our community. One thing we're very actively looking for as well is experienced police officers. So if there's experienced police officers watching this, we very much would love to see your applications. Abbotsford, I moved from Vancouver Police Department. I can tell you that I could not be prouder to be a member of the Abbotsford Police Department. This is an incredible community that is so unbelievably supportive of its police service. We have a mayor and council, a police board, a police foundation that just really care about us, and that has helped us through some of our very challenging and difficult times, most recently the floods, and the outpouring of support that we received. And as well, our members here, we work very hard to take very good care of the people who are part of our AbbyPD team, with the best equipment, with the opportunities, and supports for mental and physical health. So those are all things that we care very, very much about. So, if you're an experienced police officer looking for a change, please consider Abbotsford. I can tell you it's a wonderful place to work, play, and live.
Absolutely.
And we would love to see your applications. And one thing we're really doing is trying to expedite and make that application process much quicker for our experienced police officers. So
for sure, absolutely. Now, one of the things we did before meeting today is we reached out to our community. We wanted to hear directly from them. We wanted to ask them what topics they wanted us to discuss or respond to. And after sifting through them, a couple common themes emerged. One being traffic, and the second one being homelessness with a specific question just around the Lonzo Park and Ride, which we understand is in a difficult state right now. But before we get to that, can you touch on traffic, the importance of road safety in our community, and what the AbbyPD is doing to address it?
Yeah, I mean, road safety for us is a priority. But that being said, it's challenging. I think every community, and we're certainly not immune, sees aggressive driving behaviors. And we have a very large community, a lot of very rural parts of our community where we see very aggressive and fast driving. And we only have the ability to really do traffic enforcement in so many areas of our community. We have a traffic section. I can tell you that our traffic section has been impacted by some of those shortages that we talked about. But I think what's important for everyone to know is that everybody within our department is a traffic member. If they see behavior that is, especially the driving behavior that causes the highest risks to our community, our patrol section is very, very active and engaged in traffic enforcement, as is our traffic unit. So we are focusing on projects. For example, one project we did earlier this year was for new drivers, to teach them at a very early age the responsibility that you have as a driver. And we also, what I liked about this program was we also rewarded positive driving behavior. So young drivers who we saw doing what we expect of them to do were given small rewards, which I thought was a great way. But also those who are driving aggressively. Street racing is for example, the aggressive part of it is street racing is something we're seeing more and more, very high speeds on our highways and roadways. And I know your team is really active and busy, writing tickets for that, impounding vehicles. And impaired driving, of course, is something that, I'm still shocked that we see it at the level that we see it, both at alcohol and drug impaired driving. We have officers that are just so dedicated to taking drug impaired, alcohol impaired drivers off our streets, but we still have to work very hard. But we also need help from this community. We all need to change our driving behaviors, and that's something that starts with each and every one of us. So we're very active, we're very busy, we're very active. We're writing tickets for those, especially targeting the driving behaviors that are most dangerous to our community. The speeds, the intersections, school zones, drug and impaired driving. But yeah, it's a very ongoing concern for us, and we hear your complaints that you have about the driving.
We've said before many times, and I don't think it ever grows old, and that's, of course, lives change in the blink of an eye. And, I don't know where it's more true than in road safety. So, and I think it's also worth mentioning, Chief, just our partnership with the Integrated Road Safety Unit. Of course, that's our provincial unit that members of the AbbyPD are part of as well. And so, of course, they're also floating in and out of Abbotsford conducting enforcement. So I think those are some important things to point out.
Absolutely.
Now, homelessness, it seems like this is something that we continue to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So we want to address the issue of homelessness, what we are doing about it, and more specifically, a question from one of our citizens regarding Lonzo Park. So the first question would be, maybe you can touch and speak to us about homelessness in general, and then maybe you can talk about Lonzo Park specifically.
Yeah, thanks, Casey. I mean, homelessness is a very challenging social topic and social issue. This isn't just a policing issue, as you know. I mean, being homeless is not a crime. Certainly we have to focus on those criminal behaviors that some who are marginalized and who are homeless, are maybe involved in. But it also involves social services, involves our Fraser Health, involves all levels of government to proactively help to try to find housing and supports for individuals that need it. I'm very proud of our street outreach response team that was started 2 years ago to specifically help persons who are homeless, marginalized in our community connect with services, but also deal and address some of that problematic behaviors that we see within our community. Really what we want to do is change the pathways for individuals. And even if that's one person at a time, that will make a difference for our community. I wish I had the secret to this. No community does. Every community is seeing increases in homelessness throughout. we certainly are very aware of what is occurring at Lonzo. What I can tell our community is Lonzo Park is actually, the park and ride is actually under the responsibility of the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. So we have worked very closely with our province to try to address that. I know the city is very engaged as well as our street outreach response team and myself to try to come together on a solution. We're trying to relocate and find housing for individuals who are currently there. One of the things we've learned, though, is we got to be very careful of unintended consequences. So, you know, I know a lot of people just will simply go in there and clean it all up and move everyone out. But what I can tell you is that simply what we've found is we'll move the problem to another location, and then we're trying to establish, you know, ways to support people. So we're aware of it. We're working with all levels of government to try to find housing, to try to find a way to make sure that's a safer environment. We know there's been some impacts to businesses in that immediate area with an increase in some of the property crime, and we're very much aware. We want to keep hearing from you so that we can address and support you. I wish I could tell you that this problem will go away tomorrow or I could fix it overnight. I can't, but what I can promise you is that at all levels of government, us as a police department working with all levels of, you know, social services, health services, we are trying to make a difference. And you know, please be patient, but this has been just such a challenging matter for all of us.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's it, Chief, unless there was anything else. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. If there are any topics that you would like us to report back on in our next quarterly report, which will probably be in June or July, I would imagine, Chief, feel free to reach out to us at abbypd.ca. Until then, take care and see you soon.
Thanks.